Welcome to the Deep Dive, the only place where we take that absolute fire hose of information coming at you every day, and we filter it, we focus it, and we try to give you the distilled insight you need to understand the engines that are, well, really driving the future.
And today, we're not just looking at one successful company. We're looking at an entire ecosystem, a whole philosophy that seems to have defined its existence by just completely rejecting the traditional physics of how you're supposed to run a company.
That's right. We are embarking on a really focused deep dive into the systemic culture that's been engineered across, I think it's fair to say, the most ambitious and high-stakes organizations led by Elon Musk.
We're talking xAI, the frontier AI upstart that came out of nowhere.
Right.
Tesla, the global manufacturing giant.
Of course.
And SpaceX, the company that's, quite literally aiming for other planets. The multi-planetary pioneer.
And the insight that really triggered this whole deep dive for us, the kernel of truth we pulled from just countless testimonials and reports, it was this single shared phrase.
Yeah, this was fascinating.
It was used independently to describe both xAI's brand new headquarters and Tesla's enormous sprawling gigafactories. And the phrase was, "The energy is absolutely unmatched."
And when you hear that unmatched energy from two totally different contexts within the same ecosystem, you realize you're not talking about momentary hype.
No.
It's not just a successful product launch. It suggests something systemic, something transferable and reproducible, a cultural operating system.
An operating system designed not just for success, but for maximum sustained velocity.
And our mission today is to really dissect that operating system. We've synthesized a huge stack of sources, proprietary employee testimonials, deep dive industry reports, a lot of analysis of social media signals, and operational data.
Right, real numbers.
Real numbers, from the speed of chip deployment at their data centers to the pace of car manufacturing on the factory floor. We want to understand the physics of pace that's driving these companies.
And crucially, and we're going to spend a good amount of time on this, we're doing a direct cultural comparison between the newcomer, xAI, and the current AGI heavyweight OpenAI.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Because that contrast, it basically defines the entire frontier of AI development right now.
So why should this matter to you, the listener, who might be, watching this whole tech race from the sidelines? Well, because this isn't just about what these companies build.
No, it's about how they build it.
Exactly. We're dissecting a high-stakes experiment in organizational behavior. We're exploring this really radical notion that speed itself can be a moat.
A moat, yeah.
Yeah.
A competitive advantage that's so deeply baked into the culture and the infrastructure that competitors, regardless of how much money they have, they just can't keep up with the rate of iteration and delivery.
And then, there's the other side of that coin. We have to confront the central human question here. What is the true cost? The personal and the organizational cost of institutionalizing this idea of permanent founder mode across companies of just wildly different scales.
And understanding this culture is just critical because it's the engine that is designing the future. We're talking about the products you use, the rockets that launch, and the artificial intelligence that is very soon going to influence every single aspect of global thought in industry.
Okay, so let's begin with xAI. This is where the energy seems to be at its most volatile, its most concentrated right now. Founded in 2023, the speed of its emergence is it's shocking. It came out of the gate in immediate overdrive, which is almost unheard of in this really complex, really resource-intensive world of foundational AI model development.
And the foundational difference, I think, it lies right there in the mission, which is immediately audacious.
Yeah.
It completely rejects this idea of incrementalism, building a slightly better search tool or a corporate assistant.
Right.
xAI's stated goal is to understand the true nature of the universe.
Just pause on that for a second.
Yeah. It provides this almost philosophical mandate that lifts the work way above just simple product development. It frames it as a pursuit of fundamental truth, which is, deeply motivating for certain types of frontier engineers.
And that philosophical goal, it has these direct product-level consequences. The mandate demands that they build AI systems that are maximally truth-seeking.
And that specific phrasing is so key.
It is. It's an explicit, you could even say ideological rejection of systems that are sanitized for comfort or corporate consensus, which is, let's be blunt, a direct public shot across the bow of companies like OpenAI and Google.
Oh, absolutely. They're basically saying your safety guardrails are a bug, not a feature. And this sharp, almost provocative ambition that's the primary talent magnet. Our sources confirm that xAI didn't just recruit, it poached.
From the best.
From the absolute best. It attracted talent that was already accustomed to the highest levels of intensity from every major powerhouse: Google, DeepMind, Tesla, and, critically, a really significant contingent from OpenAI.
And these aren't engineers who are just looking for a slight raise or a better title.
No, not at all. They were drawn by the chance to build frontier AI and to do it fast, unfettered by the institutional drag, the bureaucratic process, and what they saw as, the ethical constraints they felt were stifling them elsewhere.
They're seeking unfiltered innovation, maximum agency.
Exactly.
So who actually makes up this workforce? It's a fascinating blend. By 2025, they had grown to roughly 700 employees, which, it sounds small compared to Google or even OpenAI now, but the sources just hammer home that the quality is exceptional.
And it's this blend. They're mixing these prodigious, often younger engineers, the 20-somethings who can ship at startup speed, with these, quote, battle-hardened engineers who have survived the grueling scale-up processes at Tesla and SpaceX.
So you have the raw speed and the experienced endurance in one room.
And the common denominator, the thing that binds this, eclectic mix of top-tier researchers and industrial veterans, it's not a shared background. It's the tempo.
The pace.
The pace. They all share this explicit understanding that the work isn't just intellectually challenging, it has to be performed at a relentless, almost unsustainable pace. The veterans know the cost of that. The young talent is just eager to pay it. The culture demands that every single person operates at maximum output velocity from day one.
And that tempo, it's not just a mood. It's not just something in the air. It's physically enforced by the design of the headquarters itself.
Right.
They deliberately situated themselves in Palo Alto. They planted themselves right in the gravitational field of Stanford and the deepest Bay Area talent pools. They are not retreating to some remote campus. They are demanding physical presence right in the heart of the innovation ecosystem.
And visitors, they consistently describe the xAI HQ not as one of these modern, amenity-rich corporate campuses.
Right. No climbing walls or bespoke coffee bars.
Exactly. They describe it specifically as a war room. The physical environment dictates the pace. Desks are packed tight, designed for maximum density and, easy, spontaneous collaboration.
I read that the whiteboards are just constantly being overwritten, constantly erased. They're serving as this real-time record of progress, not some archival document you look at later.
And engineers are described as just drifting between conversations at all hours.
Mm-hmm.
That signals that the critical problem solving is happening organically and instantly. It's not happening in scheduled meetings that you have to book a week in advance.
That imagery of the war room, it suggests that rapid-fire, kinetic, collaborative problem-solving is the only operational setting. It's the default state.
And this density, it's purposefully exacerbated during their famous and apparently mandatory hackathons. The sources suggest the population density swells to, 3 times its normal density during these periods.
3 times.
With Grok-powered demos being built and deployed just nonstop.
It sounds like an environment that is optimized solely for tangible production and immediate iteration. It's not about passive attendance.
Not at all. It's active contribution or nothing. The culture operates as this relentless filter, and it's summarized perfectly by this one observer's quote that we found. No one is going through the motions here. You can't. You won't survive.
Wow. So if you prefer to, manage process or wait for consensus, you are actively antithetical to the culture. You're a foreign body that will be rejected.
Immediately.
And that level of intensity and the need for physical co-location, it leads directly to their really fascinating real estate philosophy, which just flies in the face of all the post-pandemic trends.
The real guys.
xAI is unapologetically, aggressively in person. In late 2025, they were actively seeking over 250,000 square feet of additional Bay Area space.
Which is a huge, bold countermove against the remote-first trend that so many of their competitors have adopted.
It signals this deep, almost religious belief that speed compounds face-to-face, that the ability to instantly resolve some complex dependency by just physically turning to the person next to you is, for them, a non-negotiable industrial advantage.
It's more than just collaboration. They treat proximity as a multiplier for velocity that you just cannot replicate over Slack or Zoom. They believe this kind of high-stakes frontier engineering, where the rules are literally being written every day, it requires the kind of nonverbal, high-bandwidth communication that only physical presence provides.
And that physical intensity helps maintain that unmatched energy.
Absolutely.
Now, This rapid tempo, it's not just confined to the offices, it's backed by these colossal hardware achievements that are executed at a seemingly impossible pace. And we have to talk about the Colossus data center in Memphis, Tennessee,
Yes.
because the story of its deployment is already becoming like mythological.
Hmm.
It demonstrates that this cultural pace translates directly into industrial execution.
The numbers here are what make this feat, as you said, almost mythological. Colossus was built and fully operationalized in a record 122 days.
Okay, let's put that in context. For a data center of this scale, especially one designed to handle the insane heat and power requirements of these state-of-the-art AI chips,
Mm.
what's a normal timeline?
A normal timeline is 12 to 18 months, often longer. You have permitting, construction, supply chains.
So over a year, easily.
Easily. To complete it in barely 4 months is a logistical anomaly. It shouldn't be possible.
And what did they launch with? It wasn't just a small test bed.
No. They launched with an initial deployment of 100,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs.
And we really need to pause and explain the gravity of that number for the listener. The H100 is not just any chip. It is the absolute gold standard for foundational AI training right now.
It's the scarcest resource in the world for this kind of work.
And access to them represents just unlimited top-tier resource commitment. A single one of these units costs tens of thousands of dollars. Securing 100,000 of them quickly is a feat of both capital and, maybe more importantly, supply chain dominance.
Precisely. They started at this unprecedented speed, but then they doubled down. They expanded that capacity to 200,000 GPUs in just 92 more days.
92 days. So, just to get this straight, in less than 7 months total, xAI went from 0 to 200,000 of the world's most powerful, most sought-after AI chips, operational.
Yes. The sheer rate of construction, procurement, integration, and activation is what led NVIDIA's own CEO, Jensen Huang, to reportedly call the feat superhuman.
It's not just fast, it's actively breaking industrial norms and expectations.
It is.
So what do the sources say about how they did this? I mean, beyond just throwing, an ocean of capital at the problem, which they clearly did.
The sources really point to a reliance on the existing Musk ecosystem's expertise in rapid, often parallel, construction. They're leveraging lessons from the Gigafactory construction playbook.
So design, permitting, building, all happening at the same time, not sequentially.
Exactly. They apply that model ruthlessly to data center deployment. They eliminate the traditional bureaucratic buffer zones that other corporations require, the waiting periods, the sign-offs.
That aggressive stance is critical.
And this is just the staging point. Their plans for mid-2026 include deploying gigawatt-scale compute facilities.
Okay, we have to contextualize what gigawatt scale actually means.
The gigawatt is 1 billion watts. It means the facility's power demand will rival that of a mid-sized American city.
A whole city.
Yes, and that kind of scale introduces enormous political, infrastructural, and environmental friction that the company has to proactively manage. They can't just plug it into the grid.
So how are they planning to power it?
They're planning to fuel this massive demand using integrated natural gas turbines and solar arrays, basically turning the data center itself into its own microutility.
This infrastructure scale, it really underscores the philosophical underpinning of the entire organization, which is that acceleration is the primary weapon. And the source material captures this perfectly with that military analogy Musk often shares.
The SR-71 Blackbird spy plane.
Right.
And the analogy is so simple, but it's really profound. No SR-71 was ever shot down. It only had one strategy accelerator.
So the Blackbird's speed over Mach 3, it made it virtually immune to surface-to-air missiles. It didn't need defensive maneuvers. It didn't need countermeasures. It just outran the threat.
Exactly.
So if the Blackbird is the metaphor, what's the direct takeaway for xAI?
The belief is that speed is not merely a performance metric. It is a moat. It's a fundamental competitive advantage and a philosophical declaration of industrial dominance.
So the idea is if xAI can iterate, train, and deploy models 2 or 3 times faster than, say, Google or OpenAI,
then those competitors will be forced to allocate their own resources just to keep pace with the rate of iteration. They'll be playing defense, reacting rather than innovating themselves. The very rate of acceleration becomes the defensive wall.
this relentless speed is only sustainable if the organizational structure supports it, which brings us to this core concept we keep touching on, institutionalizing founder mode.
Right.
This is that manic, high-autonomy pace of a company's earliest days, but deliberately applied to an organization of 700 people and, growing fast.
Let's define the core tenets, because they really are the engine block of this entire culture. Founder mode means 1. Zero tolerance for politics. That means minimizing the internal maneuvering that wastes time and energy.
Okay.
2, minimal bureaucracy, avoiding layers of permission and endless sign-offs. 3, radical ownership, where you are expected to own the problem and the solution end to end.
And the last one.
And finally, late nights when necessary with no apologies or guaranteed balance.
Huh.
It is ruthlessly, unapologetically results-oriented.
That claim of zero tolerance for politics is fascinating, but I think it requires a bit of critical scrutiny. In a company that is so centered around a single, charismatic, powerful founder, doesn't that just translate to zero tolerance for politics that don't align with the founder's vision?
And that is the precise paradox that is noted in the sources. While employees absolutely praise the lack of traditional corporate structure, the absence of useless status meetings or endless review cycles, they also note that the decision-making velocity is achieved by centralizing authority around the founder's immediate priorities.
So friction is removed, but only if you're pulling in the same direction.
Exactly. Internal disagreement that threatens speed is very quickly filtered out. It creates incredibly high cohesion among those who remain, but potentially very low internal dissent.
And the emphasis on minimizing bureaucracy is constantly highlighted as the primary reward for being there. We saw former and current employees stressing this rare freedom to just do things.
Yeah, to push code, to deploy models, or to make multi-million-dollar decisions without having to navigate the typical 10 layers of corporate friction that defines life at big tech.
That feeling of agency, that must be the addictive element.
It is. One former engineer put it very plainly, if you want to deliver, you deliver. Politics isn't there. And another one captured the adrenaline rush perfectly, comparing joining xAI to going from driving a golf cart to an F1 car.
That F1 analogy is so powerful, but it also suggests a very high risk of crashing. Given the lower work-life balance scores that are often associated with these companies, how does the system manage the sheer human capital risk that analogy implies?
It manages it by making the trade-off explicit and relying on self-selection. Glassdoor and Indeed reviews, they confirm this duality. The rewards are high compensation, rapid learning, and exceptional career growth. Those are the benefits of driving the F1 car. But this is perfectly balanced by constant pressure and extreme volatility. The system is designed to reward endurance, not comfort. They are completely transparent. If you are seeking work-life balance, you are not the right candidate for maximum output velocity.
And yet, despite this grueling intensity, the sources speak of a genuine, almost profound sense of purpose and fun. What co-founder Greg Yang called the joyful paradox.
Yeah, this was interesting.
He described the atmosphere as unfair how fun it is, and he likened it to friends hanging out and just building absurdly advanced technology together. How does this high-stakes pressure cooker environment sustain genuine joy?
I think it sustains it because the builders believe they're operating at the absolute limit of what's possible with effectively unlimited resources toward a world-changing goal. The highs are incredibly intense, like immediate feedback, constant visible progress, and these legendary anecdotes. The sources describe hackathons featuring Michelin-level catering, wall-to-wall builders shoulder to shoulder, and Musk himself dropping in for fireside chats and pep talks at 2 a.m.
That signals that the commitment is shared from the absolute top down, and that creates a powerful camaraderie, a sense of shared sacrifice and shared purpose.
Ultimately, then, the electric feeling isn't a function of the hardware alone. It's the human current.
That's a great way to put it.
The energy comes from a workforce that fundamentally believes they are exactly where they're supposed to be, operating at the maximum intersection of their ambition and the available resources.
And the sources paint this picture of an organization operating with near-zero internal constraints. You have teams moving at light speed, compute is effectively unlimited because of the Colossus deployment, and the goals are limited only by the imagination of the engineers. This creates a psychological state of perpetual, immediate forward motion. The anecdotes that bring that urgency to life are just incredible. The experience at the Memphis Colossus build site was described as running wide open worth the price of admission.
And that phrase, worth the price of admission, it perfectly captures the trade-off. It was brutal, it was exhausting, but the sense of historical impact made the sacrifice worthwhile for that person.
And then there's the other one, where the physical arrival of these massive batches of GPUs was likened to waiting for Santa.
Yeah, it's this mix of industrial seriousness with a profound, almost childlike anticipation for the next piece of frontier technology. It's a culture that fuses the seriousness of a military operation with the raw excitement of a high-stakes startup launch.
So if we strip away the mythology for a second and just synthesize the findings, the sources suggest this unmatched energy really rests on three critical interlocking pillars.
The first has to be relentless speed, a demonstrated capacity for rapid industrial and code deployment. We saw it with Grok, moving from just a concept to global deployment in less than a year, and of course the Colossus build. Speed is the strategy.
Okay, what's number two?
The second is a coherent vision. The mandate of maximally truth-seeking AI provides absolute clarity and conviction. It acts as a profound filter for talent, but also a powerful attractor for those seeking fundamental answers.
And the third?
A community of builders. It's a self-selecting group. These are not spectators, they're not corporate climbers, they're creators, people motivated by maximum agency and the desire to build on the absolute frontier, regardless of the personal cost.
Which leads us to the critical scaling question. This is the true test of this entire cultural system. Can this velocity, this kinetic intensity, actually scale past 700 employees without collapsing into unmanaged chaos?
That's the billion-dollar question. As xAI moves from 700 toward thousands of employees, it's attempting to be a permanent launch sequence, a cultural model that completely rejects the traditional AGI workplace model, which typically values stability and deep, slow research over constant frantic iteration.
The traditional model introduces layers of management precisely to prevent chaos and ensure safety and durability.
Right. And xAI is rejecting that entire premise. They are betting that the costs imposed by bureaucracy, lost velocity, internal friction, reduced innovation, that those costs far outweigh the cost of the occasional mistake or high personnel turnover.
So, if they succeed?
If they succeed, they will have redefined the AGI laboratory as a manufacturing floor. They will have proven that acceleration truly is the strategy for industrial dominance.
Okay, so to truly understand the radical nature of xAI's operating system, we have to hold it in sharp relief against the culture of its primary competitor, OpenAI.
You absolutely have to. This is not just a competition of models and compute.
Yeah.
It's a competition of profoundly different organizational philosophies. The approach to the mission dictates everything that follows.
Pace, structure, risk profile. All of it.
All of it. We are looking at two very different paths to the same technological horizon, and the mission divergence is the starting point. OpenAI's core mission is to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity.
Which by definition requires safety, ethics alignment, and long-term risk mitigation to be central to every single operational decision.
Exactly. Their culture is built around this idea of responsible deployment, emphasizing caution and structural integrity.
And then you have xAI's core, which is the more aggressive, to understand the true nature of the universe.
As we discussed.
And this drives the maximally truth-seeking AI. It explicitly favors unfiltered reasoning and speed over curated outputs, rejecting AI systems sanitized for comfort. This is a philosophical declaration that intellectual freedom and speed are non-negotiable, even if the result is unpolished or, controversial.
And this difference, it fundamentally dictates their entire release philosophy. xAI's open sourcing of models like Grok 1, that was a strategic move. It reinforced its image of intellectual freedom and transparency to the engineering community.
They're signaling a commitment to rapid open iteration.
Right. And this contrasts so sharply with OpenAI's historical approach of controlled, tightly guarded releases, emphasizing stability and public trust above all else.
The perception gap, which was summarized so well in the sources, is striking. OpenAI feels controlling and cautious. xAI feels empowering and free.
And that one statement, it defines the entire philosophical disagreement over who should control the pace and direction of AGI development. Should it be the structured institution or the unfiltered individual builder?
Both environments are obviously intense, highly demanding, but the nature of that intensity is fundamentally different.
It's night and day. xAI operates in what we call permanent founder mode. It's an F1 engine. It is a 247 war room that is optimized purely for raw speed. It is unforgiving of a slow pace. Survival requires constant, high-output building.
And you see that in the data. The high career growth ratings on Glassdoor are a testament to that steep learning curve.
But the consistently lower work-life balance scores confirm the cost of running that engine at redline constantly.
OpenAI, on the other hand, runs more like a precision factory. It exhibits a structured intensity. Employees describe work-life integration rather than balance. The work is deep, it's intellectually demanding, and it's supported by top-tier compensation and immense prestige.
But, and this is a big but, this intensity is channeled through layers of safety protocols, bureaucratic process, and organizational structure that is designed to reduce systemic risk.
And that structure has its own unique forms of strain.
Absolutely. The sources mention recent internal code red moments at OpenAI, suggesting strain from the sheer velocity of their own rapid growth and the constant friction between its original, almost academic research culture and the demands of massive, risk-averse enterprise partnerships.
Especially with Microsoft.
Especially with Microsoft. So the layers of bureaucracy, while they're intended to channel the intensity safely, can sometimes become constraining. They can slow down the very researchers who crave speed.
So if speed is the single most important metric for xAI, they accept the chaos that comes with it.
Right.
If safety and long-term integrity are the most important for OpenAI, they accept the bureaucratic friction that comes with that. It's a trade-off of risk profiles.
A fundamental trade-off. And this brings us to the internal friction points. At xAI, the mantra is radical ownership and zero politics. The structure is built to enable fast decision-making, to encourage risk-taking, and to maintain a lightweight hierarchy where results matter more than any internal narrative.
And the high cohesion is a direct result of everyone operating on that same shared high-velocity mandate.
Correct. Now, OpenAI, as an organization that has scaled so rapidly and taken on massive institutional investment, has necessarily had to introduce guardrails.
Right, they have no choice.
Exactly. While historically it was open, the massive funding rounds and the enterprise partnerships, they've introduced heavier structure and process friction. This means creative ideas have to navigate a significantly more complex system, where accountability and compliance measures are paramount.
So the trade-off for increased organizational durability and trust from external partners is a reduced decision velocity and increased internal complexity.
And the sources reveal a really fascinating dynamic here. Engineers who leave OpenAI for xAI, they often cite the frustration of having to seek permission for high-impact experiments.
They want to just build.
They want to just build. Conversely, engineers who leave xAI for OpenAI often cite the lack of support structure and the volatile, unstable nature of the high-speed work environment. It illustrates that different talent prioritizes fundamentally different forms of freedom.
Freedom from constraint at xAI.
Versus freedom from chaos at OpenAI.
The contrast in leadership style is equally illuminating. It affects not just internal morale, but also how the outside world perceives risk and stability.
Absolutely. xAI under Musk, it operates with an authentic awkwardness. It presents a raw signal.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, presentations are often rough, they're highly technical, they're deeply nerdy, and occasionally chaotic. This signals seriousness and technical depth to insiders, but crucially, it signals indifference to external optics or polished public relations.
They're saying, we are builders focused on the core problem, not communicators focused on narrative control.
Precisely. And this raw signal approach is backed by that execution infrastructure they inherited from the broader ecosystem, the Tesla-style, aggressive, rapid deployment mindset. They execute big bets fast without waiting for the perfect public messaging.
And Sam Altman's OpenAI, on the other hand, projects professional polish, what you could call calibrated trust.
That's a great term for it.
They present as composed, articulate, and meticulously prepared. Demos are refined. Messaging is calibrated to project stability and trustworthiness to regulators, to the media, and to their enterprise partners. They aim to institutionalize AGI development.
They want to appear safe and responsible to the highest levels of global government. It's the difference between a high-energy skunkworks operation that happens to have infinite resources and a global institution that's built for policy longevity. One projects raw voltage and speed, the other projects stability and control.
And the risk, I suppose, is that xAI's raw signal might repel regulators, while OpenAI's polished presentation might be masking internal chaos or an excess of caution.
Exactly.
And this philosophical difference, it culminates in the most consequential split between the two cultures, the approach to safety and model release. This is where the cultural choice has the most direct societal impact.
This is where it gets really serious. xAI has drawn a lot of criticism for releasing models with significantly less formalized pre-deployment safety documentation than its peers.
So what's the defense for that?
The defense from xAI supporters is that rapid iteration and speed are themselves forms of risk management.
How does that work?
The thinking is, if you deploy rapidly, you monitor feedback instantly, and you patch or improve the model faster than anyone else, you are minimizing the window for prolonged flaw exposure. They are essentially treating real-world usage as the highest fidelity testing environment.
But we have to pause and consider what that really means. If speed is a form of risk management for xAI, are they essentially treating the public as a beta tester for AGI flaws that OpenAI is trying to filter out in the lab through thousands of hours of red teaming and alignment work?
That is precisely the ethical dilemma at the heart of this. But OpenAI, while heavily emphasizing safety and alignment, draws its own criticism for what some sources have called selective enforcement,
Meaning,
meaning they might tighten controls under intense public pressure. That's the public relations safety layer. But they might loosen them in less visible, highly profitable enterprise contexts. And this raises questions about internal consistency and whether the ethical commitment is genuine versus simply a public relations strategy designed to secure regulatory trust.
so the core conflict here is deeply philosophical, and it's shaping the entire AGI frontier. The question is, should safety be embedded through constraint, meaning you slow down, you add filters, you build guardrails, you ensure alignment before deployment, as OpenAI tends to favor?
Or should safety emerge through rapid learning and correction, prioritizing deployment speed to find real-world flaws and iterate quickly, which is xAI's core posture? This one disagreement defines the entire AGI release cycle.
So given these two radically divergent cultural systems, the incentives for the world's elite AI talent must be equally distinct.
They have to be. xAI attracts talent with promises of maximum agency, minimal bureaucracy, unlimited compute, and unfiltered building freedom. They are selling the opportunity to move mountains immediately.
And OpenAI attracts those motivated by ethical purpose, massive brand prestige, and the desire to shape global policy and long-term institutional impact. They offer stability and a degree of moral authority.
And the sources confirm that talent is migrating in both directions. But the trend of migration toward xAI's freer environment highlights a key finding. For many elite mission-driven engineers, the ability to act without organizational constraint often outweighs the moral prestige of a structured, safety-first environment.
They prioritize impact and velocity over organizational comfort.
It seems so. The long-term implications of scaling these cultures are significant. xAI risks burnout, overreach, and severe external backlash due to its inherent volatility and the charisma-driven pace. It's an engine that is constantly running hot.
And OpenAI.
OpenAI risks becoming overly cautious or potentially trapped in enterprise compromises and bureaucracy that dilute the very innovation they were founded on. They risk favoring institutional durability and trust above all else.
There's an analyst's final contrast that I think summarizes this beautifully.
Which one?
xAI is a rocket powered by volatility and charisma. OpenAI is a quiet, predator, methodical, patient, results-driven.
That's good. And the next decade of AGI advancement will be decided not just by model architectures, but by which of these cultures proves more resilient, more scalable, and ultimately faster, while managing its own unique set of risks.
Okay, so if xAI is the kinetic startup running in pure F1 mode, then Tesla is the global, industrialized version of that same high-velocity philosophy.
Yes. It's the proof that this cultural operating system can, in fact, scale. Tesla is not just an automaker anymore. It's a massive planetary factory network employing over 140,000 people worldwide.
And it spans EVs, autonomous driving software, and massive clean energy solutions like megapacks and grid storage.
And the culture here, it's this deeply rooted paradox that generates this unique energy. It's a tension between the seemingly laid-back California vibe, flat hierarchies, informal manager titles, minimal traditional corporate bureaucracy, and on the other hand, ruthlessly high performance expectations. The entire operation runs on a continuous, high current, constantly demanding the next breakthrough.
And Tesla's culture is intrinsically linked to its global physical geography. Each major factory seems to reinforce a different piece of the company's high-speed DNA.
It absolutely does. You start with Austin, Texas, Gigafactory, Texas, which has been the headquarters since 2021. It's the nerve center, and it's described as a modern, expansive, and intensely focused launch facility, not a typical corporate office.
And by combining leadership, R&D, and production under one massive roof, that allows for extraordinarily rapid feedback loops between the design engineers and the production engineers.
Exactly. They solve problems on the assembly line almost immediately after they're conceived in the design office. The physical distance is zero.
Then you have Fremont, California, the birthplace, the origin point.
This factory carries the enduring DNA of the startup years, where the company faced multiple near-death challenges. The assembly lines run around the clock, and this is where the culture of build, break, fix, repeat, that aggressive, unforgiving iteration cycle was really forged during the Model 3 production hell.
That's the grit of the organization.
That is the grit. And finally, you have Shanghai and Berlin, and they define scale as superpower. The Shanghai Gigafactory epitomizes the obsession with speed and output efficiency. To put their pace in perspective, in under 5 years, that one site produced over 4 million vehicles,
4 million.
achieving production rates of roughly one car every 10 seconds.
We have to put that 10-second figure into serious context for the listener. That is not just fast. That means they had to fundamentally re-engineer the entire concept of a factory floor.
Oh, completely. To achieve that rate, they eliminated the traditional manufacturing buffers, the safety stock, and the idle time that traditional automakers rely on. They maximized synchronized flow, demanding a level of process discipline, mechanical precision, and logistical aggression that their traditional competitors usually only achieve after decades of stable refinement.
And they built that stability at maximum acceleration.
They did. And then Berlin takes this aggressive iteration cycle and attempts to integrate German engineering discipline, focusing on quality optimization at high speed.
It's vital we don't overlook Tesla's energy division, which is just a massive industrial powerhouse in its own right.
It's a huge sleeper powerhouse. By late 2025, Tesla had shipped over 100 kilowatts of energy storage globally, leading the market in megapacks and grid-scale batteries. This is a significant contribution to stabilizing global electrical infrastructure.
And this division, it operates under the exact same cultural tension as the automotive side.
Exactly the same, but perhaps with even higher stakes, given the infrastructure criticality. Employees report strong team cohesion and a powerful sense of purpose. I mean, they are literally accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy.
This is that pillar 3 we talked about, vision over comfort, in full effect.
It is. However, this purpose comes with significant cultural baggage, specifically punishing performance metrics. The sources present this deep dichotomy. While some employees describe the work as purposeful and the camaraderie strong, others call the environment a nightmare because of extreme, often fluctuating quotas and unrealistic deadlines.
But the experience is highly polarized.
Highly polarized. And the ability to execute these massive industrial feats like the megapack factory construction, which mirrors the rapid Colossus data center build we discussed, it demonstrates the operational speed, but it necessarily imposes immense pressure on the human element responsible for that speed. The high-voltage culture is pervasive, whether you're building a car or a battery farm.
Okay, let's get to the core of the Tesla experience for the average employee. Why it feels electric and why it causes so much stress. The organization, despite its 140,000 plus size, still runs on permanent founder mode.
And this is the organizational miracle or curse, depending on your perspective. The system enforces aggressive deadlines, unforgiving metrics, and iteration cycles that are measured in weeks, not quarters.
So engineers are expected to ship major features in the time competitors spend just completing preliminary planning.
That's right, and this applies pressure constantly, ensuring the company never coasts or settles into complacency.
The sources, they paint a very mixed picture of employee sentiment. It's a picture of exhilarating trade-offs. What keeps people there?
The highs are powerful. You feel like you're part of something historic. The atmosphere is genuinely electric, fast-paced, and exciting. The belief in the mission acts as this deep well of motivation that helps to offset the personal cost.
The lows, however, are significant and systemic.
They are. They include chronic understaffing, which is a consequence of maximizing output with minimal bureaucracy, unrealistic quotas, the constant fear of sudden reorganizations or job security concerns, and minimal work-life balance. Team Blind scores their WLB at a punishing 2.4 out of 5.
So the system is designed to rapidly reward those who can endure the pressure, but it's equally effective at rapidly filtering out those who cannot maintain the voltage.
And the most honest and telling recurring sentiment, based on our deep dive into the testimonials, is this: Tesla is exhilarating until it isn't.
That says a lot.
It does. And the sources confirm that the experience is highly dependent on your team, your role, and critically, your immediate leadership quality. This variability is the price of minimal bureaucracy. Great managers create incredibly empowering environments. Poor managers are toxic and often go unchecked.
And it seems the managers often bear the heaviest load. They burn out the fastest.
They do. They're trapped between the CEO's demands for impossible speed and the organizational imperative to minimize headcount and bureaucracy. They become the friction absorbers in a system that is designed to have zero friction. The system rewards endurance, but it also transparently sacrifices human capital for velocity.
So if the human cost is so apparent, why does this intensity persist at a massive global scale? The sources suggest it comes down to three mutually reinforcing forces that generate Tesla's unique charge.
Pillar one is vision. Accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. This transcends a product slogan. It's a moral justification for the punishing pace. It provides the mandate for civilization, which justifies the aggressive trade-offs.
Number two,
Speed. Operating as if hesitation were an existential threat. This manifests in the record-time megapack factory construction, the rapid Optimus robot milestones, and that 10-second car production rate. Speed is institutionalized.
and finally,
Trade-offs. The company openly accepts the duality, which is that pillar four, trade-off transparency. They know the intensity that fuels breakthroughs also causes burnout. The deal is explicit and transparent upon hiring. You are signing up for extreme challenge in exchange for maximum impact.
so the conclusion on Tesla's culture is clear. It is not balanced, it's not calm, it's not gentle. It is a high-current environment designed to achieve industrial goals that competitors deem impossible.
But for those who can handle that current and who thrive on radical challenge and impact, the sources confirm it is transformative and it runs at the voltage of the future.
Now we shift gears again, moving from global factories to the ultimate high-stakes goal, escape velocity. SpaceX, founded on the explicit, almost mythological goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species, is perhaps the purest, most visceral expression of the high-velocity cultural operating system we're analyzing.
And that extreme, almost existential mission, it acts as an incredible gravity well. It attracts a very specific kind of talent that is mission-obsessed and willing to sacrifice conventional life for legacy.
The numbers are stark. Despite only having around 13,000 employees by 2025, which is a fraction of the headcounts at traditional aerospace giants like Boeing or Lockheed SpaceX, outproduces and outlaunches its competitors.
They've forced legacy aerospace to frantically scramble just to adapt. The operating tempo is measured in launch windows, not financial quarters. The culture is compared directly to Special Forces training. Mission first, relentlessly demanding, and completely intolerant of complacency. There is no room for passengers or bureaucracy. Success is measured solely by the ability to build and launch high-impact hardware.
And like Tesla, SpaceX's culture is inextricably tied to its physical hubs, each optimized for a distinct stage of flight readiness and development.
Absolutely. You start in Hawthorne, California, the mothership. It's the headquarters where Falcon 9, the Dragon capsules, and Starlink were all conceived, designed, and industrialized. It's described as a skunk works on caffeine, kinetic, dense, and successfully collapsing the silos that traditionally separate the white-collar engineers from the blue-collar machinists in traditional aerospace.
Physical proximity forces immediate collaboration and rapid prototyping.
Right. And then you have the spiritual heart of their boldest ambition, Starbase, in Boca Chica, Texas. This site embodies the philosophy of controlled chaos. It is the physical manifestation of fail fast, learn faster, pushed to its absolute limit.
So the conditions are intentionally rough, the pace is brutal.
And history is literally being written in steel and methane. Prototypes of Starship rise quickly, and sometimes, because of the aggressive iteration cycle, they explode quickly.
The sources emphasize that Starbase is not built for comfort, it's built for urgency. Employees there know they're building the future on a timeline might even months, not decades, which is just unheard of in aerospace.
The whole organization is a distributed engine, with supporting nodes like Redmond for Starlink, Cape Canaveral for launch ops, and McGregor for engine testing, all optimized for velocity above comfort.
And SpaceX's relentless success, we're talking over 300 successful Falcon launches, routine booster reuse, it doesn't lead to stabilization, it actually accelerates the pace.
It does. Headcount has tripled in 5 years to meet the overwhelming demands of Starlink deployment, the NASA Artemis contracts, and the monumental Starship project. Success only amplifies the urgency.
So to manage this speed across such a complex industrial portfolio, leadership enforces what they call vectors-aligned thinking.
What this means is that every single person, every team, and every decision must point directly toward forward momentum and mission success. The courses confirm that cynicism, organizational resistance, or prolonged dissent are very quickly filtered out because they represent friction in a system that is optimized for zero friction.
It's a culture where decision optimization and speed matter more than consensus building or organizational comfort.
And this high-thrust environment is quantified very harshly in the employee metrics. While career growth and skills acquisition are exceptionally strong, often rated around 4 out of 5, the work-life balance is consistently low, hovering around 2.4 to 2.5 out of 5.
The sheer volume of work is immense. 60-plus-hour weeks are common, all-nighters are normalized, and the sources note that the culture surrounding the work intensity is almost comedic, with one technician joking, caffeine limits are imaginary.
They're literally trying to run ahead of gravity, and that acceleration is physically demanding.
So why does the magnetism persist despite this grinding workload? What do people love about working at SpaceX?
They love the immersion in world-changing hardware, the rapid skill acquisition across multiple disciplines. You might be welding one day and writing flight software the next. They love the direct access to leadership, which means problems are solved fast. And they love the immense pride in achieving milestones that legacy aerospace considered impossible for decades.
But the price of admission is stark. Chronic exhaustion, pervasive burnout, and required family sacrifices. The sources acknowledge that the lack of bureaucracy while enabling speed also creates a significant human cost, particularly regarding inconsistent management quality.
And this leads to the meritocracy paradox. Officially, it's a pure meritocracy where results matter more than your pedigree or politics. Positive accounts describe flat hierarchies, leadership accessibility, including Gwynne Shotwell, and respect earned purely by fixing problems fast and delivering hardware.
But
But the critical accounts, particularly related to the high-pressure, remote environments like Starbase, they allege problems. Toxic managers, instances of discrimination and harassment, and often weak HR follow-through because of the aggressive schedules and the prioritization of production over personnel.
so the anti-bureaucracy ethos, while it enables speed, can sometimes result in a system where bad actors are shielded by their ability to deliver results. The management quality becomes highly variable and sometimes predatory.
And the trade-off is often described as life-altering. An engineer famously stated that 2 years at SpaceX was 100 times more valuable than a top-tier degree.
That's a strong statement.
It is. The learning accelerates when failure is public, feedback is immediate, and the stakes are literally orbital. But, as one source noted, many leave disillusioned, realizing the mission doesn't excuse everything. The culture is, in summary, violently efficient, breathtakingly ambitious.
So despite the high human cost and the volatility, the magnetism persists. It keeps the best talent flowing in. Why?
First and foremost is the clear vision. The goal of making humanity multi-planetary outweighs almost all personal inconvenience for the truly mission-driven engineer. It provides the ultimate moral and professional justification for sacrifice.
Second, the incentive structure is unique. Pay is competitive, but it's often not elite compared to the highest-paying software roles in Silicon Valley.
Right. The real incentives are equity and impact. The ability to build and fly hardware that reshapes entire industries faster than aerospace norms would ever allow. They are trading stability for an undeniable legacy and a profound feeling of purpose.
And finally,
The transparency of the deal. SpaceX doesn't pretend that balance is guaranteed. The deal is explicit. Intensity in exchange for purpose, growth, and legacy. New hires know precisely what kind of environment they are walking into.
we have dissected three profoundly different industrial entities: a frontier AI startup, a global factory network, and a revolutionary aerospace manufacturer. And yet the cultural DNA, the operating system, is clearly shared across all scales and all industries.
It is, and this allows us to synthesize the core transferable pillars of what we can call the Musk management operating system.
Okay, let's lay them out.
Pillar 1, relentless tempo velocity. Speed is the universal strategy, a physical necessity, and a competitive moat. We saw this in the Colossus data center, built 122 days.
The Shanghai car production rate, 10 seconds.
The SR-71 analogy. Hesitation is viewed not just as inefficiency, but as an existential threat to the mission. The system demands continuous maximum acceleration.
Killer 2, institutionalized founder mode.
This is the anti-bureaucracy principle. It demands high autonomy, radical ownership, and zero tolerance for internal politics or layers of sign-off. This minimizes friction and maximizes decision velocity, often consciously sacrificing organizational polish, traditional safety protocols, or the consistency of HR oversight for sheer speed.
Pillar 3, vision over comfort.
The goals are always transcendent, always larger than the company itself. AGI truth, multi-planetary life, sustainable energy. This mandate for civilization acts as the primary talent attractor, and it provides the moral justification that allows employees to endure the extremely high personal cost.
They're motivated by legacy and impact, not just a paycheck or a comfortable job.
Exactly. And that brings us to Pillar 4, trade-off transparency. All three companies openly embraced the duality of the system. The same intensity that brings historic highs, launching Starship, deploying 200,000 H-100s, building megapacks in record time, also causes profound human costs, including burnout and managerial volatility. The employee experience is variable, but the fundamental deal is transparently one of high challenge for high impact.
This cultural system is obviously incredibly powerful at innovation and speed, but its primary challenge remains scaling the energy, retaining that kinetic, electric feeling as the headcount increases exponentially and the organization demands more structure.
And we see the tension points clearly across the ecosystem's timeline. At 700 employees, at xAI, radical ownership and minimal bureaucracy work brilliantly, provided the talent is top tier and self-disciplined.
But at 13,000 employees at SpaceX, we start seeing that meritocracy paradox emerge, with concerns over inconsistent management quality and a weak HR response to internal issues.
And then at 140,000 plus employees at Tesla, the management layer becomes the key tension point. It's cited as the fastest place to burn out and a significant source of organizational chaos, precisely because the system is designed to remove the traditional buffers that manage complexity in large human populations. The pressure on middle management to enforce maximum velocity with minimal resources is just enormous.
So the long-term success of xAI's entire experiment hinges on whether minimal bureaucracy can scale effectively without collapsing into unmanaged toxicity and chaos.
If this model succeeds, and you could argue it has mostly succeeded at Tesla and SpaceX in terms of industrial output and market disruption, it redefines the frontier workplace.
It establishes the AGI lab not as a bureaucratic research sanctuary or a relaxed corporate campus, but as a permanent launch sequence where intense pressure, high volatility, and radical ownership are the default sustained settings.
They are betting that the cultural volatility that defines their process will lead to a faster, stronger product than the methodical stability of their rivals.
We have to explicitly link this cultural volatility to the products themselves. The Starship project at SpaceX, it embodies this cultural acceptance of catastrophic failure. If it explodes, they rebuild faster, learning in public and iterating on the fly. That cultural acceptance of risk is embedded in the hardware.
Similarly, the culture of maximally truth-seeking and rejecting corporate consensus at xAI is not just a slogan. It's a profound declaration that they are willing to accept potentially unfiltered, controversial, or even unstable outputs in pursuit of raw AGI capability. The cultural chaos translates directly into a higher risk-reward profile for the product, Grok.
So the volatility is the feature, not the bug. The entire system is designed to remove the layers that traditionally manage human chaos, betting that the resulting speed will always create a decisive advantage.
That's the bet.
We've established today that culture is the decisive variable in the race for AGI and industrial dominance. The difference between xAI and OpenAI is not just code or computing power. It is a fundamental philosophical disagreement over whether the creation of powerful systems should be governed by unfiltered speed versus structured safety.
And the entire high-velocity ecosystem, from the gigafactories to Starbase to Colossus, relies on a cultural operating system that is designed for escape velocity, not comfort. They have institutionalized the speed and volatility of a startup and applied it ruthlessly to global industrial-scale problems, achieving outputs that defy traditional industrial timelines.
The sources confirm this model is a radical trade-off. It rewards excellence with unprecedented impact and growth, but it punishes those who cannot withstand the continuous current, resulting in significant human cost and managerial volatility. The deal is explicit. Sacrifice for legacy.
So here is the final provocative thought for you to consider as you wrap up this extensive deep dive. The cultural system we have analyzed, one that is optimized solely for speed and is ruthlessly demanding of its human workers, is currently creating the world's maximally powerful systems, including AGI.
And this raises a critical question.
If AGI is built in environments optimized solely for volatility, rapid iteration, and a systemic lack of human balance, what values will those human creators inadvertently embed into the maximally powerful AI they unleash?
Is it possible that the AI systems designed to understand the true nature of the universe will inherit the very culture of volatility, high-risk tolerance, and rejection of established guardrails that defined their birth?
That is a profound question about technology, psychology, and organizational design, and its answer will define the trajectory of the next decade.
Thank you for joining us for this intense look inside the physics of pace. We encourage you to analyze the culture behind the products you use. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.